And when Trisha Paytas gets married, it will most likely be someone who's a foreigner, someone foreign to her, and somebody who's a little bit reclusive and out of the public eye. So I don't expect that she's going to marry somebody that's like another famous YouTube personality, even though she's been dating them. It'll probably be more somebody more out of the public eye and probably someone who's a foreigner. And we're probably going to see a big change in who Trisha is over the next couple years. We might see certain aspects of her identity become something of the past. She might actually really reinvent herself. So what's going on with Trisha Paytas? That's what we're analyzing today using Vedic astrology. I'm Thor Sandalwood, and I just pulled up Trisha Paytas' chart. And we have a really good birth time for Trisha because in the astrological database that I went to, they have a birth certificate, which is a great source of documentation for her birth time. Trisha is obviously, you guys know, she's a very well-known, popular YouTube channel, has a big presence on the internet, in the entertainment community as a whole. So what I'm going to do right now is we can see, what is in Trisha Paytas' future, what's happening right now, and will she get some of those things that she wants? She said in some of her videos that she wants to get married and have children. And so we'll go ahead and look at that and see if we can use this form of divination to get some answers about what's going on with Trisha. First thing I want to say, she's a Leo ascendant, and that's not surprising at all. She's in the public eye, and Leos have a desire to be the center of attention. So they feel like they're royalty in general. Leos have this divine entitlement to be in the public spotlight a little more than most of the other signs in the zodiac. So they feel like they're entitled to be in the spotlight. And Trisha has Ketu, which is considered the south node of the moon in Western astrology. So Ketu's in her first house. It represents your identity, but with Ketu being there, there's a disinterest about that because she's done a lot of identity development in past lives. So she's more taking on the collective projections of what people are putting onto her. That's what it tells me in her chart. And Rahu being in the 7th house shows me that she really has a pressing desire for long-term committed relationships, and also that desire to ultimately get married, find somebody to marry. The only issue with Rahu being in the 7th house is that it can sometimes get us what we want, but then we find out that we're in over our head later on and that it's not really what we want. Because Rahu never really is satisfied with what he obtains, what he gets. So if Trisha gets married in the future, she might not be as satisfied with it as she originally thought she would have been. However, that's her desire. There's Moon and Mars in the 6th house. The thing about Moon and Mars being in the 6th house, it can show some form of mental illness or just being, just having toxic thoughts and things like that, because Mars is there. Mars is malefic, but it's not really that malefic for her sign since it's the 4th and the 9th lord. But Mars can be kind of really, really pushing on that moon, which is like your sensitivity, your emotions. And so she could have a lot of anxiety and different pressure, maybe some deep down anger and different things that could be affecting her. One thing I wanted to say about a chart was that the great yogi Paramahansa Yogananda said in his book Autobiography of a Yogi that just because our birth chart projects a certain destiny or fate in our lives, it doesn't mean that we're overcome by those, because the higher power, source, or God, what you want to call it, gives us all the tools that we need to try to transmute this karma that we have. Also, the moon and Mars being in the 6th house can also be indicative what we'd consider environments that are a little taboo, like that mainstream society doesn't view as, this isn't a Disney movie. It's a more taboo subject. And so she's more comfortable working in those environments because she has moon there. The chart shows us why she was able to do those things in the past, but it definitely doesn't say, she's going to continue doing this throughout the future. And even if she decides she wants to, it's not really a big problem. We want to also look at what kind of Mahadasha and Bhukti that she's in right now. What kind of karma is she manifesting right now? What is the future for Trisha? That's really what we want to see. So as I do this video on September 1st, 2019, Trisha is in Jupiter Mahadasha and Mercury Bhukti. So her Jupiter is in the 9th house, and the 9th house can have a lot to do with God's grace and also Dharma and higher teachings and religion and things like that. And I was thinking, wow, this is very spiritual time for Trisha. And this seems like contradictory because I watched some of her YouTube videos and I'm like, she doesn't seem that spiritual, but the chart is showing that there are some spiritual aspects to her life that we don't quite understand. And Jupiter, the issue though with Jupiter in her chart is that it's really close to the sun in the 9th house. So what the sun is doing, it's only 4 degrees away. So that's called being combust. So Jupiter is combust in her chart. So that means that the outer indications of the planet are really being affected by the hot rays of the sun. So this Jupiter energy in her life is more internalized. So she might find herself being more deeply spiritual, but not really being outward about that to everybody around her. But she's learning a lot of important soul lessons right now in her life. Jupiter also being very close to the sun can also harm fertility. It can indicate, doesn't mean she's never going to have children or anything, but it could indicate that it might be difficult to have children in the future. And that's what I would tell a client that had Jupiter this close to the sun, because Jupiter is the karaka of children in the chart. Also, if we take a look at Trisha's 5th house, she has Saturn in the 5th house, and Saturn can be delays and obstacles. So what I see is that she could also be having issues trying to conceive, or it could delay her having children until later in life. Typically, a lot of things of the house that Saturn is in won't manifest until after you're the age of 36 years old. And that's only because Saturn doesn't mature till the age of 36. So sometimes it can just give us those delays and hindrances towards that in our lives. She's in Jupiter Mahadasha, it's with the sun. So I don't say this is a bad time for her. It also rules the 8th house. The 8th house can be, a Dashtina house in that it causes breaks. So I know that she's been through a few breakups. 8th house can be sudden breaks, things that happen suddenly. Also, it's Lord of the 5th house, which is entertainment. 5th house is all about entertainment. It can represent children, and it can represent even things like royalty. And she's basically like celebrity royalty right now. Now we're going to focus in more on the Bhukti, the sub-period that she's in. She's in Mercury Bhukti. And the first thing I notice is that Mercury is in her 10th house of Taurus. 10th house is all about visibility and your career. And what is she doing? She's at a very good time in her career. She's very visible, and Mercury is the planet of communications. What is she doing? She's going out and she's putting out all these videos, doing her mukbangs and whatever her thoughts are on a given day. She's actually exposing a lot of herself too, a lot of her deeper thoughts. And she's doing this in the public eye. Everybody's seeing it. That's what the 10th house is. The 10th house isn't a secretive house. It isn't a house where you can really have many secrets because you're so visible to the public. Now, Mercury also rules her 11th house of Gemini and her 2nd house of Virgo. This is a great time for Trisha to earn a lot of money because Venus is also in the 11th house. So Mercury is also activating Venus, and Venus is the karaka of love, romance, money, really opulent amounts of money. And the 11th house is the house of income, earnings, salaries, royalties, those kind of income flowing to her. And the 2nd house is also a money house. It has to do with your treasuries and your bank accounts growing. See the difference between the 11th and the 2nd house? The 11th house is more about the money coming in, and the 2nd house is how do you save that money? Because just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you can save a lot of money. But with a Leo ascendant, Mercury is both the lord of the 11th house and the 2nd house, which is it's a great money planet for Leos. So this is a great time for her to make money. Now, very soon here actually not too soon, but next summer, July of 2020, Trisha will be entering Jupiter K2. K2 is a time that could be troublesome for her. K2 is the karaka of things that get taken away from us. Usually when you're going through a K2 Bhukti or a K2 Mahadasha, if you're going through either one of those times, usually there's something in your life script that needs to be removed. So we can expect during that time that there will be something in Trisha Paytas' life that needs to be removed. And there's 2 things which is going to put her through a very emotional, difficult time. And I'm going to tell you, one is going to be the K2 next year that she's going to be going through. But even right now, she's going through a very difficult time emotionally because she's in a time called Sade Sati. And this is when transiting Saturn enters the house before your moon for 2.5 years, then enters your house with your moon in it for 2.5 years, and then enters the last house after your moon sign for 2.5 years. So Sade Sati is 7.5 years long. And in India, it's known as a time of bad luck. And mostly it's a time that you're going to be very depressed and your emotional nutrient is just not coming in. You feel that people are abandoning you. You feel that you're not really having those people that are giving you that emotional support and love that you need for your psychological and your emotional needs. And she started this. Saturn is currently transiting her 5th house of Sagittarius. And so that's the sign right before her moon. And then it's going to be entering Capricorn at the end of this year, or right in January, I believe, January of 2020, it's going to enter Capricorn. It's going to be there for 2.5 years. So this is going to be a very difficult time for Trisha emotionally. And I hope that she gets all of the help and the blessings that she needs to help her through this difficult time. Also, another thing about Saturn transiting her 5th house is it's coming in contact with her natal Saturn. And this is something we all go through. At about the age of 31, we all have something called a Saturn return. That means that Saturn, through 31 years, has transited all the signs of your chart. And so it's a very important age of maturity. It's really a big milestone in all of our lives. Typically, most of you, if you guys are the age of 31 or older, you guys probably can remember that time in your early 30s where it was a real turning point in your life. And it's really the turning point where you grow up, because you faced a lot of those Saturn lessons in your life. So Trisha Paytas is also being asked to grow up, to mature, to become more of the woman that she's supposed to be. You know, whatever she thinks that is. But it's definitely a lot of emotional pressure for her. She definitely could meet somebody in the near future, because I see Mercury activating the planet Venus. She definitely could meet somebody in this next year. As far as dating goes, she could have plenty of opportunities for dating because Venus is the karaka of romance. I don't see like a quick marriage or anything like that, but she could definitely, meet somebody in this next year. Also, with Rahu being in the 7th house of Aquarius, it also can indicate that if Trisha Paytas does get married in the future, that she'll most likely marry somebody who's probably a foreigner. And also, because Rahu is the karaka of foreign things. Also, if we count 7 houses from her moon to get more of a profile of this future spouse, it's the 12th house of Cancer that represents 7th house from her moon. The 12th house is also the sign of foreign things. So my prediction would be that if and when Trisha Paytas gets married, it will most likely be someone who's a foreigner, someone foreign to her, and somebody who's a little bit reclusive and out of the public eye. So I don't expect that she's going to marry somebody that's like another famous YouTube personality, even though she's been dating them. It'll probably be more out of the public eye and probably someone who's a foreigner. She's just going to be going through a very difficult time with that Sade Sati, and then also with Saturn transiting, returning to its natal position in Sagittarius. This is just going to be a very game-changing time, and we're probably going to see a big change in who Trisha is over the next couple years. We might see certain aspects of her identity become something of the past. She might actually really reinvent herself, who she is, in the next couple years. So that's it for Trisha Paytas. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in a more private personal reading, please email me at thor.sandalwood@gmail.com and I'll send you some information on how we can do that. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.